We're going to start finally. So this seminar is made by WILPF, the event group. There is 5 of us that organized this today, together with IKFF, and I'm going to present you as well. So WILPF stands for the Swedish Development Forum, and it's a non-partisan and religiously independent non-profit organization. So the purpose of WILPF is to inform, to organize Sweden about development cooperation. So that's what we do. So in today's seminar, we're going to talk about Sudan. So we're very happy to have you here, Ikhlas. Yes, women playing a significant role in Sudan, and so you're going to talk about this. So we're going to have it for 45 minutes, and then we're going to have Louise Ricknert that's going to lead us during this part. So it's 45 minutes, and then it's going to be 45 minutes for questions. The microphones are used. Yes, we're going to use the microphones just for recording, so that's why you don't hear. So, welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you. Do you want to sit?
Okay.
Hey, thank you so much for opening up for this discussion today. My name is Louise Ricknert. I am in the board for Women's International League for Peace and Freedom in Sweden. And for your sake and for my mouth's sake, I think I'm going to use the acronym WILPF further on, or it's going to be too much of a hassle. So thank you so much, Ikhlas Mahmoud from Sudan, WILPF's group in Sudan, for joining us here today. And today we will have the opportunity to hear about her experience from Sudan, from the overthrow of the Omar al-Bashir government and the dictatorship, and as Eleanor just mentioned, the role of women during this change, and also the opportunities, don't worry, the opportunities and challenges that lays ahead now with the new government. So thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, welcome. I'm happy to be here in Sweden. I'm happy to be here with you. Yeah, I'm happy to have some of my Sudan, my family here too. Yeah, and I hope to get a productive discussion here. So.
I think we have the great opportunity of really getting a contextual and situated knowledge from you being here with us today. And maybe first, before we get more into the case of Sudan and what happened, I thought maybe we could just have a few words about what WILPF do, as we're both a part of it, me here in Sweden and you in Sudan. And we are an international feminist organization that work for sustainable peace, and we also work for against nuclear weapons. So we are a member of ICAN, the international campaign for against against nuclear weapons, of course. We had 30 years in the Sudanese case of a military dictatorship under Omar al-Bashir, with very strict laws, religious laws that were described to be limiting the population, civil society, and freedom of speech, and in particularly having a restrictive effect on women's rights in the country. So the protest started in April this year. Am I correct? Mm-hmm. And Omar al-Bashir...
Started in December.
Started in December already.
Yeah.
Mm. And Omar al-Bashir was overthrown by the military in April.
In April, yeah.
Mm-hmm. So the new, I'm just going through very quickly. Maybe most of you are familiar, and then in September, the new government was initiated. Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yeah.
What would you describe to be the final effect that made Omar al-Bashir overthrown by the military after? What was the what would you say were the final reasons for his resignment from president?
Yeah, many reasons. Many factors led to overthrow. More dictatorship, repression, confiscation of freedom, human rights violation, even growing of poverty, suffering by people, and inflation, and instability, conflicts. So all these reasons together made factors and make background for the people to go to the streets. So yeah, I think these are the convincing reason for them to overthrow him. They use religion to suppress the people, to confiscate their freedom, and yeah.
Sorry, do you in the back? Do you hear well? Or we can maybe we can start.
Have a microphone.
Yeah, but it's for the recording, so maybe if you just try a little bit stronger.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay, so there were several factors. And the military, what do you think led to the military act in April to overthrow al-Bashir?
They said, you know, I don't know, the military, they said they want to support the civilian transition, and they want to respond to the people's demands. That's what they said. And it is their duty to, you know, to protect the people and to stand for their demands for democratic transition. So that's what they said, but I don't know, they have another agenda, I don't know. Yeah.
And as Eleanor also mentioned, what we, especially here in Sweden, noticed was the central role of women. So Ala Salah, for example, was raised as one of the leading women in the protests from the civil society. And how was, more than that, how was the role of women as a central part of the protest? How did you experience that? How was it expressed?
Women were involved, and they were very effective actors in the protests on all sides, in the street, in the decision making, in everything. They were present in the scene. So they have a very significant role in overthrow Omar al-Bashir.
So they were also taking a very strong part, and they were being viewed during
in the media. Yes, they spread the media. They support the revolutionists. They support the men in decision making. They support the demonstrators in the street. Yeah, they were active in all aspects, in all fields. They were there.
How did the old military regime react to that, given how it was before and given the oppression of women? How did you notice any strong reactions to that?
Yeah, repression, violence. They use violence so to prevent women to go to the street, and torture, sexual violence. Yeah, they tried everything, you know, to stop women to go to the street. But I think they failed. They failed to do that. So.
Yes, they obviously failed because you took a very strong part and maintained. And given the strong central role that women had in the overthrow and the protests, how has the continued development to the new government? We had the transitional government during the summer, and now the new one being initiated in September. How has the central role for women continued, or has it changed?
I don't know. I think they were ignored in the planning, in the negotiations. Yeah, they didn't appreciate their significant role in the revolution. But now women groups are fighting to gain more powers in Sudan, to get they are demanding for 50-50 participation. Yeah, particularly in the peace negotiations. So.
How are they fighting to have a stronger position? How are they expressing themselves and intending to do so?
Yes, they make like advocacy and stuff. They were make alliances so to make their voice heard by the decision makers, and they talk in the media, and they do all means to make their voice heard by the government. Yeah. So,
sorry, it's connected to another question that I had, but now as you mentioned advocacy work, how are they using social media, or because here very often within our movement in WILPF we talk about social media as a peace tool, as a way to not only communicate but also to raise awareness and for advocacy work. How was that in Sudan? Was it a central part of the protests and the continued creation of the?
They use the social media. It's a very effective tool, and they use communications with international organizations like what we do in WILPF, so they can make their voices heard by the international community, and so they can. So they can make the local government to respond to their demands, for more participation in the government and in planning for the future of the country.
And what do you think, what are the reasons that, because you mentioned before that we have we have a foreign minister that is a woman now, but we don't have parity 50-50 between the genders in the representation. And from having a very central part to the new government where you experience a lack of equality in representation. What are the reasons for this? Why aren't there equal representation, would you say?
I don't know, maybe the top leaders, almost all of them are men. I think they decide in the meetings, they decide the participation. But I think this is the main reason. So they ignore women because women were not present in their meetings, So I think so. Yeah, I think this is the main reason. Yeah, because few women are in the top leadership in political parties and in decision-making institutions. Even in the Freedom and Change Association, very few women. And in peace building, negotiation and stuff, women were ignored since a long time, So they were not present. So they cannot decide. I don't think men are going to decide for women anytime, right? They're not going to decide. No one is going to talk on behalf of women for participation. I think this is the main reason. Yeah, that's why they forget them. I think. Yeah.
Well, sorry.
No, I think another reason. I think they think. It's enough to give them like for ministers. Yeah, they talk in the media. They said we have to appreciate that they gave us like for ministers. Yeah, they said it's enough for women. I don't think so. We're gonna fight until we get 50-50. Yeah.
So you said that we're not gonna let any man speak on behalf of women. Maybe that relates. I'm asking you very tricky questions today. But would you say that is the reason, maybe that's an answer to my next question. Why is it so important? Why is it so important that women have a central role in the new government? Is it because of you cannot have anyone else than the group per se to represent itself, or what would you say?
I think because women are severely affected by by the political instability, by conflicts. They bear the cost of civil wars, pay the cost of conflicts, violation of their rights, repression of the last regime. So I think they have to be in the decision making, so they can work for women groups, particularly women on grassroots level. Yeah, they need to be represented on the leadership or on the decision making. Yeah. So they work for their interests, I think so. Yeah. So it's very important for women to be, to have like 50-50 or stuff,
But would you say that it's a pattern that goes through the whole country because what you said before sounded a little bit maybe like that it's a structural issue, the lack of women in representation? Or would you say that it's more on high top positions?
I don't know. I think there's maybe something. I think it is a structure because the political development in Sudan, I think it is man-dominated. So that's why the women do not, reach the top leadership. So we have to work hard from the grassroots, I think it's going to be hard work. It's going to take a long time. Yeah, but we have to do it.
And what are okay, so it's a structural issue, and what would you, as representing civil society and WILPF Sudan that works for women and gender equality, women's rights and gender equality, what are the challenges that we stand before in order to, I remember during the protests, people were shouting out freedom and justice and peace. So what are the, overall, what would you say are the primary challenges for reaching that goal?
I think the military, and I think the military side, they don't want, they don't want the transitional democratic in Sudan to take place or to happen. Yeah, they want to dominate. So I think they work hard to put up obstacles and for the democratic change in Sudan. Yeah, but so civil society is supporting the democratic transition in Sudan, and they work hard to achieve the goals, the revolution goals, to reach freedom and justice and stuff. But they have to work hard during the transitional government or transitional period until 2021. They have to work hard.
Until what year?
21st, I think,
2021?
21, when the elections takes place, and it's supposed to take place in 2021.
So even if you have a new government now, the military is still trying to oppress and restrict the democratic movements within the country. Am I understanding you correctly?
I think so. Yeah, this is my own opinion, but I think so. They're still dominating, they don't want people to be overthrown. They always say they are partners in the revolution, so they don't want to be thrown away. They don't want to keep away, so I don't.
Well, it wouldn't be the first time in history that happens, right?
Of course.
Okay, so where are we now in the process? We have the peace treaty going on between the leaders of the protests, if I understand correctly, and the government. What is happening there?
They're trying to reach an agreement with the support and mediation of the Sudan friends like Southern Sudan, Uganda, Ethiopia. They're trying to reach agreement. They're trying to make compromise between their demands. So because the peace is our main obstacle now, the main challenge to reach peace. Without peace, we cannot get into democratic government. We cannot achieve our goals. We cannot make development, real development. We have to achieve sustainable peace first. Without sustainable peace in Sudan, I don't think we're gonna get stability, political stability. Yeah.
And where do you see that Sudan is at the moment in the peace treaty? I understand it might be a difficult question, but I believe that you have a very good insight in comparison to many of us.
We have to be optimistic, you know. We have to be about the negotiations now. I think we're gonna get into agreement. I think so. Yeah.
So you are hopeful.
Yeah, we have to be.
But maybe going a little bit back words to during the protests. I'm a bit curious because here in Sweden we hear about what happened in Khartoum. You heard about certain areas of the city being especially, you know, how would you say, like safety zone for the protests or whatnot, and maybe saying that they were safe is too much, but at least they were especially special parts of the city that where the protests were taking place. But what happened in the other parts of the city? Were there protests there, and how did the process of the new government take place in other parts of the country? Maybe you would like to share a little bit about that as well.
I think the protests were all over the country. Yeah, and they were well united. Yeah, to overthrow the Omar al-Bashir, and I think after that they succeeded to overthrow him, but by the efforts of the whole population. It's not just in Khartoum. All parts of Sudan were participated. All the population in all parts of the country were participating in the protest. Yeah, otherwise no, you cannot. The people of the population in Khartoum, they cannot do it by themselves, you know. Yeah, but the protests were all over the states. Yeah, in Western Sudan, in Eastern Sudan, the Blue Nile, yeah. Yeah.
They were active everywhere.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, and also we spoke a little bit about the role of social media here. We had a lot of people changing their colors in social media as a symbolic gesture. They changed to yellow during the protests. Was it? Oh, sorry, blue. Sorry, blue. And and was it an actively used tool? Would you say during the?
Oh, of course.
For the one participating.
Yeah, of course. Social media was behind the success of the revolution.
Yeah.
Yeah, because they use it on mobilization of the people, raising their awareness on the revolution, and yeah, it was very effective. Social media was very effective. Yeah.
So, in relation to what you mentioned before, being used as a advocacy tool, it was also being used during the protests.
Yeah. They make all the international community aware by what is going on in the Sudan. Yeah, they draw the attention of the international community to get support. Yeah. So without the social media, I don't think the revolution would succeed. Yeah.
So the role of the international community, how did you experience that? For example, the symbolic gestures and overall
yeah, I think we got a very good support from the international community. Yeah, even at the government levels and at the civil society level. Yeah, we get a good support. Yeah, they have an effective role to overthrow Omar al-Bashir. Yeah, because they made pressure on the government, you know, to respond to the people demands, yeah, to the street demands, to the protests. Otherwise, they would use more violence, yeah, to suppress the people. Yeah, they put the international community on their consideration, you know, because they're scared. So the international community was supportive, yeah, and still we get support from the human rights organizations and the government levels too, yeah.
You said that and you looked at Marie and Karin.
No, because we discussed that before, yeah. Yeah, we got support from WILPF Sweden and WILPF International too, yeah. And we appreciate that.
Well, I think it relates to my next subject, which is focusing on you and focusing on WILPF Sudan in particular. Because you were founded, WILPF Sudan was founded in 2017, is it?
Yeah, we started the process in 17, yeah. We got final approval on February 18. Yeah, but it's not registered in Sudan yet due to the obstacles by the last government, and yeah, it's still working on registration. Yeah, but I think it's gonna take time to. Yeah, because the same people are there, still there. Yeah, but we're gonna fight to do that.
The same people that were in the old regime are still in the central parts of the institutions.
Yeah, still controlling the civil society, like humanitarian affairs commission, which is responsible of registration and stuff. The same people are still there. Yeah. But you know, it takes time. Usually, it takes time.
So, being a rather new group of WILPF International, what would you describe are the main goals of the Sudanese group?
Our main goal is to empowering Sudanese women groups and civil society groups. But we want to empower women at the grassroots level and the civil society working groups in Sudan. We want to strengthen women to claim for their rights. We want to work on improving the women human rights in Sudan. We want to increase their participation in peace because women are severely affected by the conflicts in the country, so they have to be part in the negotiation or in the peace building. Yeah, because you know they suffer displacement, violence. They did pay the cost of the civil war in Sudan, so they have to be part in peace building or in peace negotiation and stuff. Yeah, so we want to strengthen their role in peace building. Yeah. This is our main objective.
And you, I myself become very curious about how come that you decided to become engaged in these subjects, because as you described, it's not an easy task, and during the regime and everything, how come you decided to take up this struggle for women's rights? A little bit about you.
As I told you that, you know, I know that women are severely affected by the war and by the regime, you know, by the practices and suppression of the regime and by the war, you know, they suffer displacement, we suffer inequality even in civil society, we suffer like more repression, violation of our rights, and so I decided, you know, to join like international organizations so we can get support and we can make the Sudanese women voice heard by the international community to increase their participation mainly in peace. Yeah, because I know the women suffer a lot by civil wars. Even the displaced women who move from their original places and come to Khartoum, they suffer a lot, you know. They have to find new means for survival. They have to adopt themselves with the new environment. They exposed to violence, sexual violence, harassment, so they suffer a lot. So, I think it's better to be engaged so we can work for the interests of women, women groups. Yeah. Yeah, that's the main reason we joined. Yeah, and I think it's the right organization to join. So yeah.
I think so too. No, but you mentioned now the role of the international community and also looking to international organizations, but in the international community overall and governments and what would you wish for? Because what would you perhaps what would be your dream for the international community to do in order to support this transition that lies ahead of Sudan now, and the Sudanese women and organizations, civil society, whatever, what more? What would you wish for?
We wish to get more support to achieve peace in Sudan. This is our main challenge now, to achieve peace in Sudan, and to support civil society and civil women, society women groups to get their rights and increase their participation in the decision making and in peace process. So I think we can get that support from by putting pressure on the government, you know, to engage more women in negotiations. Yeah, I think they listen to the international community. So we want our voices to be heard by the international organizations, by international communities, so they can advocate for participation of women, in these processes. Yeah, and in planning for the future of Sudan.
Are you having in mind United Nations or what sort of? What do you have in mind here?
All human rights. International human rights organization, and the United Nations can make pressure on the Sudan, the government, because Sudan is a member, so they can put conditions for them. Even the African Union, the African Union put some pressure on them already to increase the participation of women in the peace negotiations in planning the future of Sudan. So yeah, we got support, and we're still getting support from the international community. Yeah, but we have to make our voice heard. You know, if we don't talk, we will not get support. Yeah, that's why we have to join international platforms like WILPF and
And we have Agenda 2030. With the global goals in which women's rights and civil society is a very one of the main goals. And also we have Resolution 1325 that talks about women in the peace building process, right? So we have, there are international goals already set.
I think the UN Women, they pressured and they talked to the government of Sudan to be involved or to adopt the resolution 1325, and they did the national plan because they forced them to do it, but now it's not effective, it's not active. So we have to work now to activate it and for implementation of the national plan. We have to do that now.
Maybe you can develop that a bit on the national plan. It was in 2014.
14, yeah. They put it, but I don't think they achieved anything. Yeah, the government put it on under the pressure of the international community too, you know. But they did put the plan, but no funding, no following up, nothing. So now we have to follow up with it so we can achieve the goals.
And what was a part of this national plan? What was it about? And maybe you can explain to us a little bit about its vision.
It is about engagement of women in peace building, strengthening of women human rights, also empowering women groups, and about most of them are women in security, like even health security, economic security. Yeah, they have to empower women groups. But they put a plan, but they didn't.
Has the new government given any hints about how they aim to work with this subject?
Not yet. Not yet. Not yet. Yeah, I think civil society, women groups have to talk. If they don't talk, they'll ignore everything, you know. Yeah, because now I think they are busy with the peace and stuff, and yeah, so we have to talk. Yeah, we have to talk to make some pressure on them to respond. Yeah, yeah, but yeah.
And if not including women now, then when, right?
Yeah.
If women should be a part of the peace building process.
Yeah, yeah. We have now to work on increasing the participation of women. After that, if women take place in the government, they can work for the interests, I think, of women groups. Yeah.
Well, I have one last question, and it's a rather big one, and it concerns the future work of the Sudanese group of WILPF. And I remember when WILPF celebrated 100 years, 2015 was it? And we had a huge conference in The Hague with sister organizations and sections from all over the world. And I remember a very question that repeatedly were brought up was the subject of inclusion of men, which may be found amusing now, since we're talking about the role and representation of women. But if we focus on the organization and the work of organization, I think maybe this is an interesting topic, including men and women, boys and men. I mean, including boys and men into the gender equality work as a peace organization. We have Anna Atombo also from WILPF Kenya, just 2-3 weeks ago maybe, yeah, around about, who also spoke about the work of the organization on this subject. So I'm a bit curious how the group in Sudan view this subject, and maybe you would like to share a bit about that.
We welcome engagement and involvement of men too. Yeah, because you know, if we strengthen the role of women, this is going to be returning a good impacts on the society as a whole, right? And men need to be aware of women problems, women violation of human rights. And I did participate in a project by the UN, I think UNDDR. It was called One Man Can. If you heard about it, One Man Can. It was implemented in Sudan. So it was about the GBV, but they were targeting men.
Gender-based violence,
focusing on men, because they think if men be aware of the situation of women and about the GBV, this is going to be more supportive, you know, to support women and to improve their situation and stuff. So it is important to engage men in work, in women development, or women development, yes. Yeah, we don't want to work by ourselves.
that brings me to another reflection, maybe, because we also talk about the need for safe rooms for women, or at least non-men, where women can feel safe and feel that they are in an environment where they can share experiences and they can develop and empower themselves. How do you view that other aspect, and maybe how to do you have any ideas maybe of how we could try to balance that, like including boys and men, but also remaining safe spaces for women and non-men?
Yeah, I think it's mainly be women, you know, if they're women groups, they're gonna plan for their development, they're gonna plan for projects and stuff, but the men, they need to engage the men to get like the support, men and the whole community. Yeah, without the support of the community, and the men are part of the community, they cannot achieve their goals, right? So, but they have to plan, they have to lead the development. Yeah, the women groups. So women groups need to be empowered first, and they can get the support from men, but they have to lead the movement. Yeah. So we cannot ask men to lead the women movement, but they can join it. Yeah, I think so. So I don't think, yeah.
They are welcome to join.
They are welcome, yeah.
That was a very nice ending on my questions to you. And now we will open up, and you here today are very welcome to ask Ikhlas your questions. Are there any? Yes?
Do I need the microphone?
Yes, maybe for the recording.
Thank you very much. Very interesting to hear from both of you. I was curious about two things. I have two questions for you. One is about the mobilization of women, or the women's movement now. Has it been a united movement, or has there been fractions, or can we see the movement as something building alliances between women of different religions, or class, or yeah, has it been a way to build new alliances, or has there been fractions within the women's movement? And my other question is about social media as a peace tool, and the importance of internet and social media during the revolution. And because I understand there was an internet shutdown.
Yeah, after the massacre.
Okay, and how that affected the communications within the movement and everything with the internet shutdown. So those are my questions. Thank you.
Maybe we can start with these two questions, and then we can continue.
Yeah, I think women discover that they have to be united. You know, at present they started to make alliances to work together, because if they get united and work in a group together, they can affect the decision making. They can get their demands. You know, they're going to be heard by the decision makers. But if they work fractionally, individually or fractionally, I don't think they're gonna achieve their goals. So they started to unite. They did like Women's Civil Society Alliance, and they joined the movement. They signed the document by the Change and Freedom Association, because they were united together. I think many women organization united together, so they got effective role. You know, because they were together, and now working to unite now with they are growing their network together, and they understand that it is better to work together. You know, and the other question about the social media. Yeah, it was challenging when they disconnected the social media in Sudan. But I think they worked out to solve it. They did, I don't know, traditional means of communication during the internet disconnection, but it was challenging. After the massacre, yeah. For 2 months, I think they did disconnect the internet. Yeah, but they did use traditional means of communication like before. Yeah.
Thank you. Very, very good question. So I think maybe you were before.
Yeah, I cannot. No, Ingela. Oh, sorry.
I think maybe you in the back were before. Yes. Okay.
So I'm Sudanese, but I've never lived in Sudan actually, and I've always heard about the Sudanese women, the Kandakas, all the way from the ancient queens up to Fatima Ibrahim, the first woman in an African parliament, all the way to you and all the rest of the women now in the revolution. So there's no doubt that the Sudanese women are quite strong. But the last 30 years were quite oppressive. They change or not, maybe even destroy the culture, the Sudanese culture, as I've heard it, the golden era of Sudan in the past, where women and men were at least considered equal. So how your grassroots women movement is going to help fix the culture, or how, you know, fix the problems that this government or this dictatorship did in the last 30 years?
Yeah, I think through freedom, you know, and dissemination of culture, and they have to respect the traditional cultures of women. They have to work on spreading the culture, the ancient culture or the old culture before the destruction of, before the 30 years, because they did destroy the culture, you know, in the name of religion. They prevented many traditional and custom practices in Sudan. But I think now they're gonna start to, even there is completely, I think 2 or 3 generations are completely lost. They don't know anything about the culture. But now I think this is the role of the people who work on the culture to try to return or to spread the culture and to raise the people awareness, especially the youth, about the cultural traditions in Sudan, so they can get back to practice their own culture. I think everything will happen with freedom, you know. If they get freedom and democracy, everybody can do his role in a perfect way. I think so.
Well, thank you so much. It's been really interesting to listen to your ideas and knowledge about. And I was wondering if you could elaborate a little bit more about what you think were the specific keys to success in the revolution, and why you actually succeeded to overthrow such a long-term dictator, because there are protests going on in so many countries at the moment, but with quite significant failure, for example in Venezuela or in Chile, and it's been going on for much longer than the process was in Sudan, without any sign of change, you know. So what do you think, why did you succeed in comparison to other contexts where similar protests are going on?
I think the people were very strong, very clear in their objectives. I think they were very brave too. Yeah, they didn't respond to the repressions by the by the regime, by the last regime. They tried all the means to stop the people, to repress them. They did murder the people, torture them. Even for the women, they put them in detention, they kidnapped them, but they failed to stop the people, you know, because, as I said to Karin, the people were fed up. So they have to do it, either to die or to achieve the success, because, yeah, the situation was getting very worse, you know. So, yeah, the people, we don't have anything more to lose. We lost everything. We lost our freedom, we lost our wealth, we lost everything. So we have to fight, either to succeed or to die. So that's why I think we get success. Mm-hmm.
We have... yes, yes, in a while. There are a few people. You were also, right?
Yeah, I would like to
have intervention,
to do some really comments about the women role in the revolution. My name is Saif Omar, and I work for Union to Union. And I have been somehow supporting IKFF in one of the projects in Sudan. In Somalia also, I've been doing a great job in 1325. And even in different ways. I think that revolution in Sudan will not be possible without women's role in Sudan. Women in Sudan, they challenge the Sudanese masculinity of doing the change. People in Sudan, they think that the men, they are doing everything. But it came to a point where the role of the women became really very apparent, very clear. And Allah is just one of the symbols. There are many of them. The suffrage of the Sudanese women are very huge. And probably we're just now discussing in Khartoum. Angela, I've been in the Blue Nile, Darfur. I mean, the suffrage there was great, was above imagination of people who have been left without food, without support. And in Khartoum itself, you can see those women who have migrated to the center, selling tea, fighting every day for getting food for their families. And then the government, they really use everything possible to break the strongness of the Sudanese women. One of them is the public law order. What was it called?
Yeah, public law order.
That law has been used systematically to target women clothes, women shape, women the way they are dressing. And there are figures. There is a journalist, Amir al-Hussein, has been subjected to slashes, 14 slashes, just for having a trouser.
Lubna al-Hussein, yeah.
Lubna al-Hussein. You have Winnie, a young girl. They just caught her at her home and they told her you are drinking and you are... A lot of really terrible things. And they have been beating women for any... There is no reasons. And when it comes to the social media, I think women were harassed at the social media just to keep them silent. And you're asking about the role of the social media. There is a group called Member Chat. That was a group of females who just came to a point where they found it, this is too much. Now we should have to expose men. And they've been doing that exposure in the social media about, yeah, this man who is part of the police, the security, is being doing this and this.
Yeah.
And that has really played one of the key roles of breaking, helping the Sudanese to get the revolution. You have the sit-in. I was in the sit-in, in fact, just went there to see it from Sweden here. And I was there 3 days, and just the day before the 3rd of June, women in the sit-in, they have even more bigger role than the men. It is not that traditional role of cooking and preparing food in Ramadan. It is not.
Yeah.
They have been doing speeches. They have been having seminars. They have been doing the mobilization. I think they have been doing more what the men, and that's why they have been targeted by this the 3rd of June. They have been targeted. They have been selected, and there is also the issue of the rape in Darfur.
I'm really sorry, I don't mean to interrupt, but maybe if we can hurry up
No,
and
it's
maybe
just,
get to
of
your
course,
questions.
I
You
just
have a
want.
question
No,
for us?
it's okay. It's okay. No.
No questions?
No, I don't have a question.
It's
You
okay.
you wanted to express your
Yeah.
future. Okay, thank
It's
you very
okay.
much. And then we have Pilar, and then we have you in the back. Of course.
Hello. I'm coming from Chile, and we had there also a dictatorship by 16 years. And under the 5 years before the dictatorship, the last years of the dictatorships, women decide to organize themselves as women in a very wide front, a very strong organization, and they succeed to get very stark positions in all the actions to get the dictatorship down. But then, when the country go back to democracy, many leading men, come back from exile, and they start organizing the traditional political parties from different colors. And their message to women was, what you did, it was very good, very important, but we don't need it anymore, because now you can organize in the political parties. And many women did it. They left the women's organization, the women's movement, and stepped in the traditional political parties. And there they get position long way from the centrum that all the big decision was made.
They have to start from the
Yes.
bottom, right? Yeah.
Yes. Now, after 30 years, so women are again leading the revolution that is going on in Chile, and it has not failed.
No,
Not
it's just
yet.
that it's
Or getting back their position more and more strong. But it was many years that women went back. Do you think there is risk for some similar development in Sudan, for women's organization in Sudan?
No, I don't think so, because because we organize in, we refuse the traditional parties. You know, they didn't do the revolution. They were not part in the revolution, so Sudan started to organize in new organizations. You know, by youth organization, modern organizations, to make the change. And we have started to strengthen the women civil society groups, because they were part, and as Mr. Saif said, women groups played very effective role in the revolution, particularly women in civil society. So we're not going back to the traditional political parties. Yeah. We may organize a new movement, new parties. We're thinking to make like women congress, so we can make our voices heard. But we are not going to start from the beginning in the political parties. No. Yeah.
We had one last question in the back.
Not a question, just a remark again.
Okay.
Same as in Chile, yes, and same as in Sudan. This is not an 8-month revolution. This is a 30-year revolution. People have started uprising against the government since day one. They were killed, and it took 30 years. And in Chile, it will take, hopefully, much less. So soon, they will win as well. So it doesn't just take 8 months. It takes a lot of months and years and people dying. And yeah, hopefully it's victorious as for Chile and Lebanon and all the other countries that are uprising right now. So just this, it's not a big problem.
I think we have passed the time, but maybe... Are we okay? Okay. Do we have any more questions? Yes?
So thank you so much for all of this. It's so amazing to have someone here and to get to listen inside of what's actually happening and get the opportunity to ask a few questions. So you mentioned a lot about the participation of women and how crucial that is and how important that is. And you mentioned also the participation in the parliament, but also grassroots, the difficulties with having women in the grassroots level and also in the parliament. So my question to you is more about, what do you think is the challenge now? I mean, I understood, my first question was about what happened, what was the difference this time that made women participate, and then I understood you came to a breaking point. And now my question is, what will happen now? What do you think is the main challenge for women in Sudan?
For women?
Yes, for women.
Yeah, the main challenge is to be organized and to make like their voices heard by the government, to get more participation in the government, and in the decision to be engaged and involved in the decision making, in planning on the future of the Sudan, and in peace negotiation, because peace is the main challenge now at this stage. So we want women to be engaged because they were severely affected by conflicts. So it is fair to involve them in the peace process. And as Mr. Saif mentioned, the women suffer a lot in Darfur, in the conflict-affected areas. They were displaced, harassed, raped, killed. They lost their families. They had to move from their original areas and left their homes, and they come to Khartoum to face harassment by the government. So they have to be involved. They have to be involved. This is our main challenge now.
Thank you. Yes, one final. Do you have the energy still? One last question.
Please comment.
Yeah, I'm Sudanese also.
I know.
And I one of the founders or who started the Blue for Sudan movement.
Oh, okay.
Because of my friend was killed by the military.
Oh.
And we just put his profile picture was blue, and we just but we didn't know it will take this effect at first. You ask a lot about the challenges of the women. The problem in Sudan is lack of knowledge. Only 40% of the Sudanese people know how to read and write. So most of the women in Sudan doesn't know their rights, and that's why the laws are correct. The laws are here to help the people, but the women doesn't know their rights. So they're supposed to be organizations to help women know their rights in Sudan. And my auntie was the head of the Women and Children Violence. So I know a lot about the organizations and the stuff is going in Sudan. Most of the organizations how to say this, focus on supporting themselves. They want to get financial supports first, and then they go against each other. Instead of helping women, they go against each other and fight each other because they want financial supports. That's the biggest problems back in the days.
I don't think so.
Yeah.
They fight each other because of the finance? What do you mean by because of the finance?
For example, they try to decrease the work of the other organizations to get the financial support for their organizations. You know?
No.
That's the main problem. That's what I heard from.
When do they get the financial support or the fund? They get the fund
outside of Sudan.
Okay, so how they stop it?
They try to fight each other to get the financial support.
No.
That's what I heard.
I never heard about that. No.
Yeah.
Yeah, the organization write proposal.
Yeah, exactly.
And send it to the donor.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and it depends on the proposal. They send the finance. So
Yeah,
so how
exactly.
come they fight each other?
Yeah, and
how come?
they tell like the donor, we get like we do like much better work than the other organizations.
This is not. No, I didn't. I never heard about that. This is nonsense. How come?
Okay,
how come they? How come? No.
Yeah, that's what I heard.
Okay, so agree to disagree. If
Yeah,
let's have one
exactly.
experience of this, and you have another one. And I want to say that this. Sorry, this is a moment to ask Ikhlas questions. Okay, you had very interesting ideas that you wanted to share, but are there any more questions? Do you have one final question? Then you. Okay. Do we have time still? 15? Yes. Okay. These two final questions. Sorry, do you mind? Of course. So please be very clear with the certain questions that you would like to ask.
Yeah, hi, my name is Ali. I'm also from Sudan. I'm from the Swedish Sudanese Association. What I want to ask just shortly is why not demand change now? I mean, why wait? I mean, like they say, hit the iron when it's hot. I mean, so the women have, in Sudan, they are strong. They have actually led this revolution. And now the men are taking over in the leaderships of the government or whatever is happening just right now.
Yeah.
So I understand mobilization should be should continue, but why not demand the change from the men right now? Well, I'm not saying that women should make a new revolution, but we need to demand it immediately and not wait until everything is majority men.
Yeah, I know.
So that's just my question. I mean.
Yeah, they have started to organize and to unite together, and they demand for to increase their participation in the government. We demand for 50-50 in Sudan. That is what is going on now in Sudan. The women civil society groups, they're asking for participation with equal participation of women and men in the government, in decision making, in planning for the future of Sudan. So we are working by advocacy channels, and we talk, yeah. So we're going to work on that. Actually, we have started to work on that, to make the change. Yeah. We're not going to let men dominate everything. Yeah.
So your request for equal power has been going on for long, and it hasn't stopped, but it has continued.
Yeah.
If I
of course.
interpret it correctly.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. One last question.
Ola, also like Ali, Swedish Sudanese Association. I just had a question. You could add to this equal power. You talked about the importance of getting stronger representations of women in the ruling organs. And I thought because my experience, the reason of being in Sudan is that this have taken place to a rather large extent in the central organs like the government, of course, and others. Prosecutors, leading prosecutors and others being women. But how is it on the regional and local level? I understand that after peace negotiations, there will be change of these organs too. Do you have the feeling that women around Sudan are prepared to fight for equal representation in the different regional states and in the local municipalities and so forth? Because I think that is very important to change really the situation of the big majority of women in Sudan.
Yeah. This is a job of the civil society, of women groups, like to support the women at the grassroots level to stand for their rights, mainly in the conflict-affected areas. and to be aware of what is going on and to claim for their rights in participation. So the civil society has started to increase the awareness of women at the grassroots level to be aware of their rights and to demand on their rights for participation. So this is very hard, but yeah, they have started to work on that. Yeah, I hope we succeed to involve more women and to raise their awareness of to claim for their rights and participation.
Okay, do you have any last notes that you would like to enlighten us about, maybe?
Yeah, I'm always stressed on the peace. We have to work hard for peace, to achieve sustainable peace in the country. This is our main challenge, and also we are working to increase participation of women, because they are severely affected by conflicts. So they have to be part in peace building, and we have to make more advocacy work to improve the women's human rights in the country, and to lead the women on the grassroots level to claim for their rights and to stand for their rights. And of course to educate women. As he mentioned, most of the women are illiterate in Sudan, so we're working on that to improve the women education, so they can be aware of their rights, so they can stand and claim for their rights. And we're looking for the support of the international community to achieve our objectives. Yeah, but I think with the hard work, we're gonna achieve our goals, inshallah.
I think that was a wonderful ending to this seminar, and thank you so much, Ikhlas, for coming and sharing all your knowledge and experience. And thank you all for coming here today. Thank you so much.
Thank you.